couple of months ago, this empty house in my village came up for sale, and I wanted to make a video asking you all the question, would you buy it? If your answer to that is yes, well, you can't, because the house ended up selling very quickly. However, there is a silver lining. The new owners happen to be my old neighbours Gail and Derek, and when they heard that I wanted to make a video about the house, they very kindly let me come over and film a little tour of their new home. So that's what I'll be sharing with you all today, giving you a good look at what roughly £300,000 gets you in Scotland's countryside. Now, rather than just give you all a regular tour, because the house wasn't furnished and might need a little bit of work in some areas, I thought it'd be cool to hire some interior designers and architects to create renders of what each room could look like if it was fully renovated. To hire my designers for this, I'd be using Fiverr. I've spoken about Fiverr many times before, but for those of you that don't know what Fiverr is, it's a website where you can hire freelancers from all over the world to do pretty much any digital service you need. There are honestly too many services to mention, but I've personally used Fiverr to design rooms in my own home. I've used it for getting some help with video editing, and I even hired some artists to make little graphics for my YouTube banner and some custom emojis of my cat for my channel members. So it's a very useful website, and if you end up liking the designers I use in this video and want to use them yourself to redesign any rooms in your own home, I'll link them below, and with the code PATCHY10 you can get 10% off your order with them or any other kind of Fiverr service that you might need. So starting the tour, we have the living room, which I entered through the big sliding patio door. As you can see, Gail and Derek had started moving in, so some of the rooms were a little bit busier. I actually filmed this video on the day they were moving in, while some of their extended family that I'd never met before were also helping out. I don't even like making videos in front of my own family, so this was kind of the social anxiety equivalent of having a bare knuckle fight with a gorilla. The family were all so lovely though, so that was a massive relief. Anyway, enough about that. This room is so gorgeous, open and naturally bright, and one of my favourite details in here are the two lengths of botanical themed tile which run adjacent to the stovepipe. Moving into the back of the living room, you have this lovely spiralling wooden staircase which leads upstairs to my favourite part of the house, the mezzanine. However, before we take a look up there, as I said, we'll be reimagining and digitally renovating each room. So for the living room design and furnishing, I hired Max, who is an architect from Ukraine. I simply sent him over the room sizes and some inspiration pictures, explained to him that I'd like to furnish this room in a mid-century modern style, but not to include a TV. I just felt like it was more of a room for hanging out with friends and family, rather than a place to watch TV. After a couple of days, Max came back with these renders, which I just think look so good. The wooden floors he put in, the big corner sofa in the middle, the light tones of the furnishings, it all just lends to creating quite an airy and comfortable space, which I think aligns perfectly with the original feel of this room. I did wonder if it might be better having the sofa facing the other way so that you're looking out of the big glass patio door and into the garden, so I guess you can all let me know what you would do here. Heading upstairs, we have my favourite place in this entire house, which is the mezzanine. I just find the staircase and the space up here very striking. The wooden beams on the vaulted walls and ceiling create such an interesting look, and the two roof windows let in loads of natural light. On the right side you get a view over the half-acre garden that this house comes with, plus a view out to the loch. The only thing to be cautious about here is minding your head when turning back around. When it came to reimagining and potentially renovating this space, I had a couple of ideas. The more severe of the two ideas was converting the attic space, which is accessed through this little door, so that the mezzanine would run all the way to the end of the house. The less severe option was just leaving the space as is and simply furnishing it. For this redesign, I hired Max once again because of the class job he did in the living room below, and I told him I wanted to see both options that I was thinking about and sent him over some sizes and pictures for inspiration. For the more severe reimagining, I asked him to add in more windows, perhaps add a mind your head sign or two, add some very low down storage at the bottom of the vaulted walls, turn the walls surrounding the doorway into the adjacent bedroom into storage for books, add some seating so that people could hang out up here, and also put in some plants so that it had a cozy yet bright and lively atmosphere. A couple of days later, Max came back with these renders, which I just think look amazing. For the renders where he left the room as is with no attic conversion, he put in the same wooden flooring as he did in the living room, a new window with a desk below it, created the low down bookshelves that ran along the bottom of the vaulted walls, and altered the doorway into the nearby bedroom into some more shelving before adding a sofa and plants to create that cozy, welcoming feeling. For the next two renders, we're able to see what this space would look like if the attic was fully converted to create a much longer space. In this version, Max opted to put the sofa at the very end wall rather than under the vaulted walls, moved the desk back a bit, added some more windows, and extended that low down storage. Although I think this is interesting, the big downsides of this option are obviously the effort and cost of doing this structural work. But beyond that, extending the mezzanine would block off the gap above the living room, which allows natural light to pour into the living room from the mezzanine windows. As I said before, this mezzanine is my favourite part of the house, and I think both versions of what Max came up with are really good. But let me know what you would do here. Keep the mezzanine as it is and retain the attic storage, or extend it all the way to the back. Right next to the mezzanine we have this room, which when the house was for sale was described as the office, but I think Gail and Derek are going to use this as a third bedroom, which makes much more sense. To show this space as a bedroom, I decided to hire Emad, who is an architectural visualization artist from the UK, and he does these very helpful little renders which let you see the room from above and just get a general idea of the layout. For this, he was able to put in a big bed facing towards the window and a small desk just next to the window, kind of getting the best of both worlds in terms of having it as a bedroom and an office. So as you come back down the stairs, just to the left in the corner you have this little utility room, and this was something that Gail had said she'd wondered about reconfiguring. The right side wall in here actually connects to the only bathroom in the house, so to see what it would look like if they made the bathroom bigger, I once again hired Emad, and he did two renders, one showing the rooms as they currently are, and one with the separating wall taken down and rebuilt a bit further over, gaining a chunk of space for the bathroom. Doing this, you could still fit a tower washer dryer combo in the utility room with space for jackets and shoes, especially if you change the door so that it opens outwards into the living room. Doing all of this, you do gain a good chunk of space in the bathroom without giving up too much of the utility room. So speaking of the bathroom, coming out of the living room and into this little entrance foyer, which like so many other parts of this house is just full of natural light, you have the master bathroom on the left. In here you have the throne, a fairly rustic shower, and then this wood panelled wall on your left. Gail had said to me that she really likes sage and olive coloured decor, so I found some inspiration pictures online, measured up the room and sent them over to Azel on Fiverr, who is an interior designer from Pakistan. A few days later, Azel came back with some beautiful renders of what the bathroom could look like. For the floor, he did a subtle light grey tile, and for the wall behind the vanity unit and toilet, added these small sage tiles, which are all kind of varied, which creates a really nice effect. I asked him to do the fixings like the flush plate, tap and mirror in brass, just because I think that works quite well with the green, and he also added a pretty big vanity unit with plenty of storage. Gail had told me that she would like a bigger shower, so Azel added that with a glass enclosure so that it didn't feel as closed off as the existing one, and he also added this unique feature tile on the shower head wall. For the rest of the walls, he continued with sage green paint, and on that side wood panelled wall, I asked him to replace it with this fluted oak panelling, which I actually have in my own bathroom, along with a brass towel radiator. Coming out of the bathroom and down the corridor, we have this little room off from the kitchen, which on the house plan was named the family room, but Gail has since renamed it the Snug, which I think is just much more fitting. For this room, I rehired Emad to show what the layout of this room could look like fully furnished. After sending over the sizes and a couple of inspiration photos, this is what he came back with. Since the big living room didn't have a TV, I asked him to put one in here, and he just generally filled it out with cozy furnishings which matched the vibe of the rest of the house. For smaller rooms like this, where the majority of the job was just furnishing based rather than anything hugely structural, Emad's designs were always just very helpful. Moving on from the Snug, we have the kitchen.
راست فونك
That was Gail and Derek's niece, Catherine. We accidentally bumped into each other a couple of times when I was filming, and I just thought that one was funny. So this is the kitchen. When you come in, there's room here for a dining table, and then on the back wall you have all of the kitchen cabinets. And then as you come around the corner, you have a door leading back into the snug, and this open section which Gail thought could be converted into a pantry. So to see what the kitchen could look like fully renovated, I hired Dragon, which is the coolest name I've heard all year, but I'm maybe pronouncing it wrong, and he's a 3D modelling expert from Croatia. Just like I did with the other rooms, I sent him over sizes and ideas, and just like the bathroom, told him to finish it in a sage green with contrasting brass fixings. A couple of days later, he came back with these designs. One of the things that Gail had mentioned to me was that she didn't want cabinets up on the wall in the kitchen, so as a way of still getting some storage in here without the solid bulk of regular cabinets, Dragon put in some open floating shelves with a couple of little fluted glass cabinets for storage. I'm hoping that's an okay middle ground on the cabinet front. Just like I asked, Dragon made the cabinets a lovely sage green with brass fixings on the handles and the tap, and he also added some blinds above the windows just to soften up the room a little bit. For the pantry, he built up that wall and added a sliding cassette door which disappears into the wall, and for the dining room, Gail said she wanted a round dining table, so I asked Dragon to put in the exact one I have in my own house, along with the circular jute rug that I have, again just to soften up the room. He also added some art, a light fixture above the table which was quite similar to the rug, and then some plants and another blind over the window to create, in my opinion, a really lovely kitchen which matches the vibe of the rest of the house. Back outside the kitchen, you have stairs which lead up to this little window overlooking the bottom of the village golf course and a little bit of the hill behind our village, and then on the left you have the largest bedroom in the house, the master bedroom. Just like with some of the other more straightforward rooms, I once again hired Emad to do one of his renders for the bedroom, just to show how it could be laid out. With a view like this over the garden, I always think it's nice to have your bed pointed towards the window rather than side on, so that you wake up to a nice view. I mean, if you have the curtains open. And then across the hallway we have the third bedroom in this place, which is a little bit smaller. Just like so many of the rooms in this house, this room also has a gorgeous view of that garden. Once again, I hired Emad to reimagine this room, and this is what he sent over. For this room, I know I just said that I like a bed facing the window, but it would have been a bit tight doing it here, so he put the bed side on and used a little bit of the recessed wall to add some built-in storage, which I think is a very good call. So back down at the bottom of the stairs we have this cupboard, which Gail had the very good idea of turning into a little toilet, given that they do only have one bathroom in this house at the moment. I believe this type of small toilet is called a Cloakroom WC in Pinterest circles, so I measured it up using my manly little laser, then went back to Max with some inspiration pictures and specific items to add, and this is what he came back with. I think it looks really good, and this is just a prime example of why hiring a designer to reimagine your space can be so helpful and eye-opening. I don't know how easy it is to plumb in something like this, but I do think it would be a good idea if it is possible. And that's the tour. If you enjoyed this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Thank you very much to Gail and Derek for kindly letting me invade their privacy. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.